Okay, so you guys sent us this transcript, right? It's a job interview with a UI UX designer.
Yeah.
His name is Mark. And
Yeah, Mark.
I guess our mission today is to figure out, like
Mm.
what makes a good candidate stand out, in this field.
Absolutely. Yeah. And whether you are someone who's, out there looking to hire, or you're someone who's hoping to land a job in UI UX,
Right.
or even just like appreciate what goes into good design. When you're using an app or a website, this deep dive is going to give you a lot of insight into that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Mark, he starts off, like you'd expect, talking about his passion for design.
Right.
He wants things to be user-friendly and look good. But then he mentioned something kind of interesting.
Okay.
He's got experience with e-commerce projects, but he also runs his own online business.
That's huge, right? Because he's got that e-commerce experience. He's worked with, real world design problems.
Yeah.
People are trying to buy things. And the fact that he runs his own business, I mean, notice how he immediately connects, his design choices to like what he's trying to do when he's selling things online.
Yeah.
So it's not just theory. He's actually lived it. And
And it's like, he understands what makes people click, like
yeah,
literally and figuratively.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's worth pointing out, like, he didn't come from like a, computer science background or something.
Right.
This guy who transitioned into tech. So, if you're self-motivated
Mm-hmm.
and you get hands-on experience, you can totally break into this field.
Absolutely. And that's something for you listening, diverse paths and real world experience. They're really valuable here.
So it's not just that he has it on his resume, right? Like the
Yeah.
e-commerce background.
Yeah.
He actually explains how running his own business has like really shaped how he thinks about design.
Right.
Like he talks about, analyzing how customers use his site and like, where they get stuck.
Yeah. Where are those pain points?
Exactly. And that's so valuable because then it means he's designing stuff that actually achieves the goal,
Mm-hmm.
like making a sale,
Right.
not just like making something that looks pretty.
Exactly. It's got to function.
Um, and then he walks us through his design process, and it's like textbook in a good way.
Okay.
He starts with user research, which is like figuring out, who you're designing for.
Right.
And then he moves to wireframes and prototypes.
Uh-huh.
And he even mentioned some tools like Figma and Adobe XD.
Yeah. Those are industry standard.
Yeah. And then after that, it's usability testing, which is basically like seeing if real people can actually use what he's designed.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, working with the developers who actually build the thing.
Yeah. That's a great overview of like a really solid design process. It
Yeah.
shows he's not just like, diving straight into the visuals.
Right.
He's got a method, and it starts with the user,
Right.
and it's constantly
Yeah.
being refined.
So when they get into like, challenges that you face in e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
He immediately brings up cart abandonment.
Okay.
Like when you put stuff in your cart and then you leave without buying it.
Oh, yeah.
And he points to complex checkouts or
Yeah.
hidden costs
Mm-hmm.
as like big reasons why this happens. And so his solutions are like, make navigation really obvious, be upfront about pricing, and then like streamline the checkout process.
Make it smooth.
Yeah. And he also mentions like building trust, with things like customer reviews
Yeah.
and secure payment options, which are all things that, if you bought anything online, you've dealt
Of
with.
course, of course.
Right.
But what's really key here is that, he's not just like listing problems. He's offering solutions that are focused on the user.
Yeah.
So this really shows an understanding of like, why people leave without buying.
Right.
And how, good design can address those issues and improve the experience, which ultimately, helps the business.
Okay. So how do you stay on top of your game,
Right.
in a field like this?
Mm-hmm.
He mentions following some blogs,
Okay.
like Nielsen Norman Group UX, Collective Smashing Magazine.
Good resources.
Yeah. If you're curious, definitely check those out.
Mm-hmm.
And he also takes online courses.
Yeah.
He hangs out in UI UX forums,
Okay.
networks with other designers, goes to events.
Yeah, it's all about continuous learning, right, in tech.
Yeah, like constant learning.
Especially in a field that changes so quickly.
Right.
You've got to stay updated.
Okay, so then here's a curveball.
Okay.
He mentions his German language skills.
Interesting.
It might seem random, but he points out that it's a real plus when you're working with like international clients, especially in Europe.
Yes, especially in Europe.
It can help you understand, different cultural design preferences.
Absolutely.
And it just makes communication easier.
Makes things smoother, for sure.
And it shows that like, skills that seem unrelated can actually be a huge advantage.
Yeah, and that's something to think about, like, what skills or experience do you have that might seem a little outside the box,
Right.
but could actually be, a secret weapon in your field?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the German language thing is a great example of that.
Okay, so finally they ask him why he wants to work at this specific company.
Right.
And you can tell he's done his research.
Good.
He talks about their reputation for creating like innovative user-focused designs. Their commitment to things like accessibility and usability, making sure their products work for everyone.
Yeah.
And he believes that his skills are a good match for what they're trying to do. And he seems really genuinely excited to like contribute and grow with them.
It sounds like he really, he wants to be there.
Right.
He believes in what they're doing.
Yeah. And so for you listening, like this is a reminder that when you're going after a job, showing that you've done your homework.
Yeah.
And that you actually care about the company.
Yeah. Your values align.
Makes a big difference.
It shows intentionality. He's not just looking for any job.
Right.
He wants this one.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Mark's interview,
Yeah.
We've seen how valuable it is to have practical experience.
Yeah.
Especially when you can connect design choices to real-world outcomes.
Absolutely.
We also looked at, having a structured design process.
Yeah.
Really understanding user needs, continuous learning.
Never stops.
And even like unexpected skills that can, give you an edge.
Yeah. So, as we finish here, think about this. We've talked about what makes a good UI UX candidate,
Yeah.
But how do these things apply to any field?
Right.
Understanding your users, having a process, always learning.
Yeah.
What kind of skills or experience do you have that might give you a unique perspective on what you do?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.